Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is the Michael and Aaron Show, and today we will be discussing the Second Industrial Revolution, the spread of industrialization, and reactions to the industrial age. The subtopics we will be discussing include describing the significance of advancements in new industries that emerged during the Second Industrial Revolution, specifically steel, chemicals, and electricity, and describing how they led to new possibilities in production and transportation. We will also be explaining how advancements in transportation and communications, specifically railroads, steamships, and telegraphs, affected both the internal and external migrations of the 19th century. We will be moving on to comparing the industrial efforts of both the United States and the Russian Empire, and we will be discussing the degree of which their efforts would be considered successful. After that, we will be discussing the industrialization process in Latin America during the 19th century and to which degree it was considered to be successful. Finally, we will be wrapping up the show with discussing how socialism emerged as a reaction to capitalism, what were their complaints, and the solutions offered by Marxists. We will be describing the labor movements of the 19th century, what they were reacting to, and what their demands were. And saving the best for last, we will be discussing how Asian states, primarily the Ottomans and the Qing, reacted to European industrialization. So, Aaron, could you start us off with describing the significance of advancements in new industries that emerged during the Second Industrial Revolution?
Starting in 1850 to 70, the Second Industrial Revolution marked a pivotal movement in history with the emergence of several key industries: steel, chemical, and electricity, each of which revolutionized production and transportation. Made possible at the time by the Bessemer process in the 1850s, enabled the mass production of steel, leading to the construction of skyscrapers and robust and complex infrastructure. At the time, this was instrumental to the building of railroads and production of manufacturing goods. Chemical advancements, such as the development of synthetic dyes by William Perkin in 1856, not only once again revolutionized textile manufacturing, but also laid the groundwork for the pharmaceutical and agricultural innovation. Not many years later, the newly found use of electricity, highlighted by Thomas Edison's development of the light bulb in January 1879, yielded innovations in manufacturing and propelled the use of electricity in cities. Together, these industries helped along growth in industrial output like never seen before, made transportation networks more efficient and effective through the construction of railways and improved steamships, which wasn't possible before the innovation of steel came along, shaping the modern world as we know it today.
Wow, Aaron, that is really interesting. Now, moving on to our next topic, could you please explain how advancements in transportation and communication, specifically railroads, steamships, and telegraphs, affected both internal and external migrations during the 19th century?
The 19th century saw monumental advancements in transportation and communication, notably through the use and expansion of railroads, steamships, and telegraph, which profoundly impacted both internal and external migrations, alongside the spread of industrialization. Toward the beginning of the Second Industrial Revolution in 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad in the United States was completed. Just 3 years later, in 1872, George Westinghouse invented the air brake for efficiently stopping trains, which reduced accidents. Railroads revolutionized land transportation, drastically reducing travel times and costs, thus facilitating the movement of goods, people, and ideas across vast distances in short periods of time. This connectivity fueled the expansion of industries in urban areas, drawing in rural populations seeking employment opportunities, consequently driving internal migration and urbanization. Simultaneously, steamships transformed long-distance travel and trade by providing efficient and reliable transportation across oceans, leading to the massive waves of external migrations as people sought after better economic opportunities or fled political conflicts and discrimination. In fact, by 1867, the Pacific Mail Company was given authority by the U.S. government to operate steamships that transported the early generation of Chinese immigrants from Hong Kong to the Pacific ports like San Francisco. Additionally, the telegraph facilitated real-time communication over long distance, reducing the sense of isolation for immigrants and making the spread of industrialization accelerate tremendously. These advancements not only accelerated the movement of people and goods, but also played a crucial role and the rapid spread of industrialization fundamentally reshaping societies and economies on a global scale. Do you think you could compare the industrialization efforts of the United States and Russia?
Both the Russian Empire and the United States of America industrialized quite differently. Industrialization in the United States was primarily led by private business owners and their enterprises. Companies such as the Central Pacific Railroad Company of California and Union Pacific helped establish the Transcontinental Railroad, which helped boost easier access to raw resources. This allowed resources to be transferred from rural areas to urban areas and expanded markets as they were turned into industrial goods and sold worldwide. The construction of railroads also needed higher steel productions, which allowed the USA to pass Great Britain in iron and steel production. The United States' efforts were considered to be successful as they quickly emerged as the industrial powerhouse. However, this rapid industrialization had severe consequences, which were environmental changes, labor exploitation, income inequality, and environmental degradation. Russia's industrialization, on the other hand, was largely state-driven. Railroad projects were initiated by the government, which allowed for the transport of raw materials from far-off regions in the vast Russian Empire. Russia's emancipation of serfs also helped promote its rapid urbanization and industrialization. Russia's rapid urbanization, however, came at a steep cost as Russia's urban centers were not prepared. Living conditions were harsh as urban development projects were not equipped for this sudden growth. This, coupled with grueling factory conditions, led to peasant discontent, which eventually led to the revolutions of the 20th century. Moving on to our next topic, Aaron will be taking over, and he will be describing the industrialization process in Latin America during the 19th century. He will be making sure to discuss the degree to which their efforts could be considered successful.
Well, after 1870, Latin America experienced a significant but uneven process of industrialization, characterized by a blend of internal and external factors. Initially, efforts were fueled by the desire to reduce dependency on foreign trade to compete in global markets. Countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico embarked on the industrialization journey, propelled by abundant natural resources and growing populations. However, progress was hindered by challenges. Political conflicts, limited infrastructure, and reliance on exports surrounded economies dominated by agriculture and raw materials. Later, investments from European powers provided much of the financial support needed for infrastructural improvements. British and other foreign firms constructed railways, streetcar systems, electric networks, often with guarantees of profits on their investments, with the happenings of the export boom a crucial event to the success of industrialization in Latin America. These endeavors laid the groundwork for future industrial growth and contributed to the diversification of Latin American economies. This was a huge success even though the transition from exporters of primary goods to producer of manufactured goods was a difficult one in which the region participated unevenly. In the end, their economy and society greatly benefited. Could you explain how socialism emerged as a reaction to capitalism and the factors that went into it?
The 19th century was dominated by two opposing ideologies, socialism and capitalism. Socialism emerged as a response to the perceived injustices and inequalities associated with capitalism. On the other hand, capitalism, characterized by private ownership of the means of production, free market competition, and profit accumulation, was criticized for concentrating wealth and power in the hands of few, exploiting labor for profit, and leading to poverty and class struggles. As a result of these criticisms of capitalism, Marxists proposed through their ideology of socialism, advocating for the removal of private ownership and government controlling the means of production. Marxists envisioned a classless society where wealth and power were distributed equally. Some of the solutions Marxists advocated for were the overthrowing of capitalist systems through a working class revolution. So, Aaron, could you please describe the labor movements of the 19th century, what they were reacting to, what were their demands, and what tactics did they employ to attempt to achieve success?
The labor movements of the 19th century emerged in response to the harsh working conditions and exploitation of workers during the rapid industrialization period. Fighting against long hours, low wages, child labor, and unsafe working environments, the labor movement sought to address these injustices and improve the lives of workers. While their demands varied, they included better wages, shorter working hours, improved safety regulations, and the right to organize, but overall, basic human rights in the workplace. To achieve success, labor movements employed a variety of tactics, including strikes, protests, and the formation of labor unions and political parties. In 1886, Samuel Gompers founded and was the first president of the American Federation of Labor. A great example of the strikes carried out by them being the garment workers' strikes, where men and women paraded on West Jackson Boulevard, December 12, 1910. These movements often faced opposition from employers, government, and even the military, leading to violent clashes and suppression. Despite these challenges, though, the labor movements of the 19th century laid the groundwork for significant labor reforms and improved working conditions in many parts of the world, shaping the modern labor rights framework, making strides towards a better future for women in the workplace as well. On the other side of the world in Asia, how did states react to European industrialization?
The Asian states, primarily the Ottoman Empire and the Qing dynasty, reacted to European industrialization differently. Both the Ottoman Empire and the Qing dynasty had significant efforts in modernization. Both the Ottoman Empire and the Qing dynasty attempted to modernize their economies and military capabilities in order to compete with rising European powers. The Ottomans implemented Tanzin reforms in the 19th century, which aimed to modernize administrative, legal, and military systems. Similarly, the Qing dynasty launched self-strengthening movements in the late 19th century, promoting reforms and industry. Both states also decided to attempt to adopt Western technologies and practices in order to better industrialize. They imported machinery, established factories, and sent students to study abroad in Western universities. However, these efforts were faced with resistance from Muslim traditional religious leaders, and in the Qing dynasty encountered challenges in implementation due to bureaucratic inefficiencies. However, due to these efforts of industrialization, there were significant social resistance and revolts. Rebellions such as the Taiping Rebellion in China from 1850 to 1864 and the Balkan Uprising in the Ottoman Empire reflected a popular discontent with internal reforms and threats to the traditional way of life.